It is not Wednesday, my dudes, which means it's time for another First Thoughts Initial Impressions Epic 7 video. This one will be on Genesis Ras, a free Moonlight 5-star that all players will get starting August 28th, 2025 as part of the 7th anniversary for Epic 7. As with all Impressions videos, I'll give you my 2 cents on the character. Do I think Genesis Ras is good? Where would I play him? What types of equipment sets and artifacts would I play him on? All that stuff you've come to expect from me from a First Thoughts and Initial Impressions video. And without further ado, let's take a look at the S3 animation for Genesis Ras.
There's no need for fear, though I presume instinct isn't so easily governed. This is my mission, and your fate. Deliverance is inevitable.
This is the part of the video where I usually gush about how awesome the S3 animation is, and I tell you that the Epic 7 art team truly carries the game, because I really do mean that. And last night during the 7th anniversary festivity stream, we finally got to see a behind the scenes look at what goes into creating the heroes that we know and love in Epic 7. And honestly, I was here for it. I thought that was one of the best segments of the entire presentation. It's just truly special to see all of the hard work that goes into this. And once again, hats off to everyone at the Epic 7 art team and the art director himself. Just amazing stuff as always. Speaking of amazing as always, in the English dub of Epic 7, Genesis Ras, as well as all versions of Ras, and while we're at it, all versions of Ruzin and Elson, are voiced by Griffin Burns. Griffin Burns is one of the few Epic 7 voice actors that I've met that is keenly aware of what Epic 7 is, who his character is, and the significance of said character. He is just an amazing individual. You can hear him as the voice of Tartaglia in Genshin Impact, Muichiro Tokito, the Mist Hashira from Demon Slayer, and of course, my favorite role of his, Doppio from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Moving on to Genesis Ras' stats, he is a 5-star Light Knight of the Libra Zodiac symbol, which makes his stat line unique to him. That said, it is the 5-star stat line of Adventurer Ras, which is a pretty cool Easter egg for those of us that pay attention to the Zodiac symbols in this game. Take a closer look at his stats. He has 855 attack, 733 defense, 6,663 health, 99 speed, 15% critical hit chance, 150% critical hit damage, no starting effectiveness, and 12% starting effect resistance. This is usually the part where I tell you what the stats actually translate to, whether it's high attack, low attack, things like that, so on and so forth. But as a fun fact, in case you are unaware, the Libra Zodiac symbol in Epic 7 is the balance type, meaning that all stats are balanced usually across the board. I think the only thing Genesis Ras is kind of lacking is speed, which is a little bit below average, but everything else, as you can see, is pretty balanced across the board. As for his imprints, he has attack percentage for the team and health percentage as his imprint for himself. Considering this is a free character that has a free SSS imprint for everybody, everyone will have access to it. Health percentage as his self-imprint is pretty much the best option he could hope for, and attack percentage, while nice, isn't necessarily as good as effect resistance, which would have been the best overall team imprint. As always, you know the drill. Before we talk about the character, let's break down the kit so that way we're all on the same page. Starting with Ras' signature skill, which is his S3, Goddess's Judgment. You gain 3 souls upon use, and it has a 4-turn cooldown. It is an AoE attack that penetrates 100% of the target's defense. Damage dealt increases proportional to Genesis Ras' max health, and damage dealt increases with fewer enemies. At the start of the first battle, it grants Sacred Covenant to Genesis Ras for 5 turns. Sacred Covenant is a unique undispellable buff that states that he cannot be affected by any debuffs or some harmful effects. Upon dying, revives with 100% health. Moving on to skill 2, it is Chains of Binding. You gain 1 soul upon use, and it has a 3-turn cooldown. After inflicting Seal and Disintegration on the enemy for 2 turns, attacks the enemy with a single target attack. A critical hit will grant an extra turn. Damage dealt increases proportional to Genesis Ras' max health. Soulburn effect for the cost of 10 souls ignores effect resistance. And Disintegration currently is a new debuff that is on this move. It is unique to Genesis Ras. It says that it decreases the max health of the target by 25%. This effect is doubled when applied to heroes. Effectively, it puts the target at max injury when it hits them, but it doesn't actually count as injury for the purposes of like bonus injury damage on things like Ilanav, Urban Shadow Shoe, so on and so forth. You don't even actually see it on the health bar of the character, and that is largely because since it is a debuff, you can cleanse it to get back that HP. This is also the first instance of a way to actually injure PvE characters, which could have some very interesting applications for the future of content in Epic 7. And finally, Genesis Raz's basic attack skill is Holy Blade. Attacks the enemy with a sword blast and increases the combat radius of Genesis Raz by 25%. Damage dealt increases proportional to Genesis Raz's max health. Now that you know the kit, let's talk about the character. So first off, just let me say what we're hopefully all thinking. Holy crap, I can't believe this is a free unit. For a game named Epic 7, they really pulled out all the stops during the 7th anniversary to make sure everyone knows that their main character, who is technically a god, is actually godlike in terms of gameplay. The character is quite literally the God MC. Previously, Empyrean Ilanav held the throne, I believe, as the most flexible knight of all time, but I think Genesis Raz now easily takes that title. Name a role and this guy probably has a pretty good chance of filling it. Anyways, let's start with his skill 3, as this is easily the most overloaded skill in his entire kit. Goddess's Judgment is an AoE true damage nuke, very akin to Last Rider Kyle's mobile weapon Siegfried, which is certainly a skill to be in good company with. On top of that, it has Straze's destructive gaze claws to power it up when there are less enemies, which makes it very good later on in PvP fights, and also during PvE boss fights. All of that alone would make for a very solid skill, but this thing comes with Sacred Covenant, which makes him completely immune to all debuffs for 5 turns, and also has a built-in level 30 Holy Sacrifice, which is arguably one of the strongest knight artifacts in the game at the moment. Debuff immunity cannot be understated how powerful it is, especially given the current state of the control units that are in the game. If you look at the entire roster, there is not a single no strings attached hero that is fully immune to debuffs. Sylvan Sage Vivian only gets debuff immunity if her focus is high. Bystander Huayong is fully debuff immune, but has the massive drawback of being unable to be buffed by her allies. Other heroes like Mort are immune to only selective debuffs. Raz has a no strings attached debuff immunity, its only drawback being that it lasts 5 turns and you lose it upon death, so your second life doesn't have it. I feel like this was all done so that he could obviously represent a foil to Witch of the Mare Tenebria, being able to easily defeat that character. And if you know there's something I love here on the channel, it's when my gameplay matches my lore. I think that is so cool. So, to summarize, Raz is debuff immune, has built-in Holy Sac, Last Rider Crown S3, can hold Arya so he can be your tank. All of that alone would make me say, okay, yeah, this guy is top tier. That said, we went the extra mile and said, nah, let's give him 2 more skills on top of that. So Chains of Binding has Seal on it, making Genesis Raz the 4th hero in the game to have Seal after Archdemon Shadow, Nekwall, and of course my girl New Moon Luna. I don't think I have to explain to you veterans out there how powerful removing passives is from the enemy team, as every single hero, in case you don't know, that has had the Seal debuff has been meta defining at some point in the game's history. The more interesting thing about this skill though stems from the other 2 parts of it. Disintegration is a new debuff that effectively simulates between 25 to 50% injury based on whether it targets a PvE enemy or a PvP enemy. 50% injury off rip means this skill absolutely cripples HP scalers, making them effectively useless against him. The 10 cost soul burn makes doubly sure of this even through things like Disciplinary Prefect Arya. My question though is how important or prevalent the 25% max HP reduction from this thing is going to be in things like PvE going forward, as cutting 25% of a boss's health off right off the rip seems pretty insane. My bet though is that the hardest content in the game is just going to be immune to the debuff, much like Ainzul Gonz's Death Sentence. Still, pretty nice to think about what it could mean for the future of PvE content. The second part of this skill the more interesting thing to talk about after the debuffs is the fact that it gives a extra turn if it lands a critical hit. If we rewind real fast back to Goddess's Judgment, you'll notice that unlike mobile weapon Siegfried, this skill can actually crit. You can actually build Genesis Raz as a DPS if you so choose. Like Il'Anav, he's going to have crazy flexibility in that you can play him as either a tank, a 3-up bruiser, an Elbrus Ritual Sword bruiser, or whatever else you like. He can play the role of sword and shield, or somewhere in the middle if you so choose. And honestly, I think that's awesome. I love when characters have very diverse skill sets, and it's up to the player to choose how you want to play them. To really hammer home the point though, that he is super flexible and can be played as a bruiser if you want, his basic attack skill gives a whopping 25% combat readiness on it, which is very strong for things like the counter set, as well as Elbrus Ritual Sword as an artifact. It also really shores up some of his weaknesses, like his really low base speed. Anyways, let's move on and talk about how I would consider building Raz, at least for day one, or at least the first couple of weeks. So I envision 3 solid builds for the character off rip. The first one is going to be Protection Set with a 2-piece health set, because, well, he's fully debuff immune, so you don't really need immunity. I would probably play him on an artifact like Aureus or Adamant Shield as his artifact and use him as my primary tank. I think it's a pretty tried and true setup, especially when we consider other flexible knights such as Abyssal Euphine and Empyrean Il'Anav. They both can play that tank slash bruiser super well. They can absolutely be very good on Protection Set with Aureus. We've seen them do so in the World Championship. Just go straight HP percentage main stats for all 3 right side pieces for this build. The second option would be to play Raz as kind of like a bruiser, a DPS, and you do that either on Destruction Set or Counter Set with, again, like a 2-piece health set, or maybe even something like maybe Penetration Set, just to get a little bit of extra value out of that S1 and that S2. With this build, you're going to want to lean into that extra turn on his skill 2 and that damage penetration damage that is going to be built into his skill 3 since it can actually crit. For right side pieces, I probably would go crit damage necklace, health percentage ring, and the boots, of course, are going to be speed. And as far as the artifact, you could go like Elbrus Ritual Sword or any damage boosting artifact that you so choose, or you could even play him on something like Adamant Shield, so that way he kind of does both that sword and shield role particularly well. The final option that I want to highlight is going to be the new Reversal Set, which will be added to the game early on in September. This set grants the user 15% base speed for 4 pieces, and also grants a unique passive that gives the user a ton of combat radius whenever they revive. Considering that, you know, Genesis Raz has a built-in revive in the kit, it seems like a natural fit, and it's coming out at roughly the same time, so the devs probably envision players to actually try this one out. I think this is a high-tempo version of the character and can be played as either the bruiser with the crit damage, health percentage, speed, right main stats, or you could even play it as a tank with something like health percentage, ring and necklace, and boots being on speed. The last thing I want to talk about in this video before we wrap up and do the conclusion is going to be the free artifact that is going to be accompanying Genesis Raz. It is a night exclusive artifact called a Precious Connection. It increases the user's maximum health by 10% and says at the start of the turn, you gain 10 souls and can only be activated twice per battle. Yeah, this is a pretty insane night artifact, and I think we're going to be seeing it for a very long time. Has really great base health for a knight, for a health scaler that's going to want to wear it anyway. And you guys already know Ancient Book is one of the best artifacts, if not the best artifact in the entire game. So just giving knights a 20 soul artifact is particularly very good. It works super well, obviously, with Genesis Raz. You just soul burn for 10 souls at the start, ignore ER, get an extra turn if you get the critical hit, and then there's your 10 souls basically refunded. I don't know if it's necessarily the best thing to be playing on Genesis Raz, but it's certainly an option to consider. And this artifact just in general is incredibly strong. I expect this to be a major role player for like at least the next year, give or take, unless they just start releasing more and more heroes that can host souls, because right now soul generation is just so powerful in the current state of the game, and giving your tank potentially this thing is kind of insane. Overall, Genesis Raz continues the legacy of Epic 7's main character being a powerful and versatile knight that's good in all content. Someone who's helpful for not only new players in PvE content, but seasoned veterans in PvP as well. His kit is loaded to the brim with value, being capable of offense and defense, and is nearly universally usable against every single type of team composition you could throw at him, whether that's control, cleave, or even standard. I'm still in awe that they decided to give such a powerful character to everyone, completely free. No matter who you are watching this, you should build Genesis Raz. And those are my thoughts on the 7th anniversary free hero, the man himself, Genesis Raz. Let me know how you feel about him in the comments below, and stay tuned for my complete breakdown and deep dive of everything that was announced during the 7th anniversary festivities. You'll want to get subscribed to the channel so that way you can see it the moment that I am finished with it. But for now, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Later now.